To discuss the verdict and what happens next, we're joined now from London by human rights lawyer Geoffrey Robertson. Welcome.
Hello.
This decision wouldn't really have surprised you, would it? Because if the law lords were to do anything else, then they would be opening up every extradition to Europe.
It doesn't surprise me. I formulated this argument 18 months ago and said that the idea that a prosecutor was a judicial authority is a contradiction in terms. And so it is in Australian law, so it is in British law. But in European law, many of the European systems merge the judge and prosecutor. They don't make our distinction. We want our judges to be independent, our prosecutors to be zealous, and the two never meet. But it was predictable. I was delighted to see that two of the 7 judges said, well, Parliament was misled about this and we've got to follow our English principles. But it was inevitable, I think, at the end of the day.
Interestingly,
that they
though,
would say England is part of Europe and this is the deal. But it has kept Julian Assange in business for a year and a half, and it has enabled him to produce Cablegate, which, of course, added immeasurably to the world's knowledge of what goes on.
On this decision, though, there is still an avenue with the Supreme Court, because I see that Julian Assange's lawyers have argued that the law lords introduced an argument that they didn't argue, so they've got another 2 weeks.
Yes, there are technical possibilities, and of course, but the main issue is the European Court of Human Rights, because that is the final court in Europe, and certainly he has a reasonable prospect there. But it is unlikely that they would halt the extradition. It's possible. So we have to wait and see. But it's
hard
unlikely
to imagine the European
will...
Court of Human Rights deciding, though, that European law shouldn't be abided by.
Well, there is a civil liberties issue, because the European warrant is a very draconian thing, and it's probably right in civil liberties terms that it should be issued by a judge rather than a prosecutor. And I should correct your introduction, by the way. He hasn't been charged in Sweden with minor rape, as the Swedes call the charge, although that too is a contradiction in terms. He's wanted for interview. It could probably lead to a charge, but speaking accurately, he's not yet been
Certainly.
charged.
Why then are you so concerned? Yes. Why then are you so concerned about this case being heard in Sweden?
Oh, the real problem, no concern at all. I mean, sooner or later, I've always said that he has to face down these unpleasant charges brought against him in Sweden, which, of course, he denies, and he has to go through the Swedish justice system to do that. His only concern at the moment is that he has a grand jury sitting in Virginia, in Arlington, Virginia. It's been sitting for 18 months, and there is talk, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's been reported in a number of places that there is a sealed indictment already brought down and awaiting. And his prospects of... I don't know whether you can hear me. I'll keep talking. I've got something going off in my ear. But there is certainly a grand jury that's been sitting on Assange for more than 18 months, and a grand jury could indict him at any point. Sweden has a deplorable record, and this is quite... it's been condemned by a number of European judicial authorities for what is called rendition.
But he could be extradited. He could be, if the United States...
to the CIA without going through a proper legal process.
Sure.
And he's far more vulnerable to an attempt to extradite him to America, where, of course, he will face very serious charges under the Espionage Act, and if the Pentagon has his way, we won't see him for a very long time.
All right, well, Geoffrey Robertson,
so
we will have to leave it there.
If that were removed, if the Australian government could obtain a commitment from America that they weren't going to seek him, then that would all be resolved and he could fight these unpleasant charges. But in America, you've got to remember that he is there's a toxic atmosphere. Rush Limbaugh said that he
All right,
should
Geoffrey
die
Robertson,
from...
unfortunately we're having some audio problems, so we are going to have to leave it there. Thank you.